Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Board of Education meeting of April 23rd. I had to look at the board for the date. Welcome to this beautiful facility here at Latimer. As always, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Up on the wall. Yeah. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Recognition.
Yes, so we have one very special recognition tonight. I feel like you're way out there in center field. But I would like to have Gianna Gurga come up for a moment. She is one of our rock star teachers at Simsbury High School. And I am going to kick this off to Sue, who's going to talk about an award presentation. And we will go from there, but thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. So the board is aware that over the course of this past school year, we've been sharing some of the highlights of our culinary program at the high school. And that work and that growth has been led by none other than Gianna Gurga, who has just taken the reins and made it happen in so many different ways for kids. So tonight, I'm actually going to do another pass. We have Simsbury resident, parent, and president and CEO of the Connecticut Restaurant Association, Mr. Scott Dolch here, to present the Pro Start Educator of the Year Award to Miss Gianna Gurga. So he's going to share a little bit about Pro Start and then do an awards presentation. So Scott, over to you.
Do we need them to have a microphone or anything? Or maybe just grab that one? Just grab it, Amy, or something? Or?
You might be used to a mic, Mr. Dolch.
Am I used to a microphone? Put it up here. Yeah, Gianna, come on up here, and he can put that right there. Does that work? Is that enough close enough to the mic? Me to hold it up? I'm going to sing a little song. Okay, perfect. No, thank you guys for having me. Like Sue had mentioned, I've been in this role now for 6 years. And just to give you guys a sense of what our Pro Start program is, it's a nationally accredited program run by the National Restaurant Association Educational Foundation. And it's high school curriculum based, as you guys know, that she teaches Pro Start 1 and Pro Start 2, talking about hospitality and culinary, the future of our industry. But also they get an opportunity when you have educators to my right here that want to go above and beyond. There is a competition part of it. So we have a state competition every year where our high schools come and they compete in culinary and they compete in what's called restaurant management. So what that is with culinary, think of like Top Chef or Chopped. They have about an hour for students. They have 2 6-foot tables, 2 open flames burners, and that's it. And they have to make a 3-course meal inside of an hour. It's all timed, knife skills, cleanliness, hygiene, everything is a part of their scores. And so Simsbury, I can tell a quick story, as we started this year and really got Simsbury High School, and as I've said to Matt and Sue, trying to get Simsbury High School into the program. We have 16 other high schools in the state as we continue to grow. We worked with Gianna to get launched in the first year, and we said, how about competition? And she was like, And then we actually did a boot camp, and I met with some of the seniors that actually knew my son. And I was just talking to them about culinary, and they're like, well, we cook. And I was like, you guys should compete. And they came back, and not only did they have one team, they had 2 high school teams compete this year, which is a lot to ask of any educator, but especially for a first year. And we had what do we have, 7 culinary high schools compete. So for Simsbury's first year, Simsbury 1 finished 3rd overall in the state, and Simsbury 2 actually finished 4th. So to have
by 0.9 points.
By
0.9
points. So
it go over time. It would have been very close.
It would, and it would have been close. And I think, though, what it means to see the students, we do it at Duncan Park, to have the students get a chance to see hospitality and compete, and if they have hopefully careers within culinary or careers beyond it. I think it's such a great, I'm a former athlete, but to see the kids have to go through that stress, work as a team, and be judged, stand in front of judges, critique, public speaking, there's so much to it. So I appreciate everyone here as you guys support the program. We continue to support our incredible educators, and no, she is the Educator of the Year for 2024. And like I was just saying to one of her students, I hope
they continue to come back and compete, because if they do win a state championship, they get a chance to compete in nationals. So I'm actually traveling to Baltimore with our teams from New Haven that'll compete against the top teams around the country, and we're hoping that Simsbury will be one of those schools here shortly. So without further ado, I want to give obviously our Pro Start Educator of the Year to Gianna Gerga.
Sorry. I really want to thank you and the committee for this, because sorry, I'm like we're teachers, we're emotional. I never went to culinary school, and when I took over the program, it was hard. Like, I sat with Matt and Sue, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, and I just realized through my students that we connect on our love of food and our love of people. And we are not people who like to be recognized. We're the back of house people. But when we serve really great food and people rave about it, and then, email me a week before an event and like, hey, can you do something? That's where the reward is. And really, I have the greatest kids, and I love the Pro Start program, and I'm so excited. I'm going to be an educational fellow through this, and I've networked with so many other teachers, and I just can't wait to continue giving Simsbury what it really deserves. So thank you so much, and thank you guys for this opportunity.
I think, just not to continue to praise Gianna, but for you guys to know that she goes above and beyond. So you guys know, if you don't know my role, I advocate for our restaurant industry. In COVID, you may have, unfortunately, yes, there's a lot of microphones of trying to talk about the industry, but I advocate. I just came from the Capitol dealing with legislators and bills, and we do a special event every year where we bring restaurants in and we showcase our restaurants, and we kind of feed the legislators, and it's their favorite day of the year. But this year, my foundation director said, why don't we try to get a Pro Start school to come and do that? And we thought of Gianna, and not even a hesitation. She was like, we're in. So your students are coming on Monday to the Capitol to feed our legislators, our governor. But that's a testament to all that Gianna does, and not saying no, and just going above and beyond. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gianna. Thanks so much. And Gianna, your parents are here, Rosemary and Joe. Oh, wow. Thank you, Rosemary and Joe.
We have a joke in my house because I didn't go to culinary school. My mom was an educator, 35 years, world language, Spanish and Italian. And so we have this joke that I grew up in the RG, Rosemary Gerga, School of Hospitality. Because I also never cooked at home. And so when I started doing things, my parents were like, how did you know how to do that? And I said to my mom, I was like, listen, I might not have done anything, but I watched you do it. So, and then my dad, when I told him about what I was teaching for baking and pastry last year, he was like, I think you should just call up Mr. Sullivan and say you're not taking the job. But here we are. So thank you so much.
Great way to start the meeting.
Congratulations,
yes.
Gianna and Scott. Appreciate all your leadership here and in Hartford. Public audience. Guess not. So then we go to committee reports.
Yeah. So at Latimer here, they had the annual multicultural celebration where 30 families presented food, facts, and culture about their heritage, and more than 350 people attended. Over at SHS, like I said in our previous meeting, the robotics team participated in the World Championship in Houston. There was about 75 teams that competed. They didn't place anywhere significant, but it still was the first time that they got to the World Championships in, I think, 5 or 6 years, ever since COVID, since that program took kind of a hit. The DECA Club is attending the International Career Development Conference in Anaheim, California, from the 27th to the 30th. The spring play, as I mentioned, Peter and the Starcatcher, is opening this Friday at 7 p.m., showings as well on Saturday and Sunday, and tickets are available at the door. And finally, this Thursday, I believe, NGSS tests will be administered for all the juniors, and that's next generation science, replaced some other standardized testing before, and that's what we do now. So yeah, should be a successful day.
Thank you.
No updates, thank you.
I have no updates. I just want to congratulate Mr. Luzzetti and the whole team. We did this amazing tour around Latimer, and I'm blown away by the thoughtfulness of the design and the smart use of funds. Just, it's really a phenomenal job. So congratulations to everyone.
All set.
A couple things. Just community-wide, this weekend, ABC House celebrated its 50th anniversary. And we actually had, of course, alum come back. And I want to say the report and just the report for some of the alumni was just really, really heartwarming. They talked about, how the school, the program, and I just want to say this, not just the program, but the school and the combination with the program has prepared them for where they are today. And a couple of folks are actually in the school, principals in schools, and so they actually shared, and what I said to them is, you got to be in the school, and now you're able to even share through your work the importance of your experience. And I mean, so of course tears, came about, but I wanted to share that. And then secondly, just the connection that's being made between alums and current students. We talk about a village, and it does take a village to raise students, and I'm talking all of our students. And so it's just good to see the village at work. And so without me getting emotional, so I wanted to share that. And then the other is just, my only personal plug is around, I know that students are just preparing to go away to college, and this whole thing around FAFSA, to parents who are maybe listening, there's still an opportunity to get your FAFSA reports in, and I'm just hoping that it doesn't impact decisions that those who are deciding to go to school, to go on to college are making. So I just wanted to share that.
It's a mess.
Yeah, it is truly a mess. It really is a mess. Jen?
So I am going to, you did have a curriculum meeting on the 18th, and because Tara couldn't make it today, I am going to just cover basically, we went over, or we previewed some of the books and texts that we have coming up that will come up in front of the board shortly. One of the books was last year, they started at Henry James, The One, and it's just one book that everybody reads, and this year it's going to be a book called The Next Great
Holly Finn.
And I just finished it myself today, and it was fantastic. Totally a great read, and I think totally age appropriate for that group, and I think I'm really excited that they do that program. And we touched on Vision to Graduate and
how we're assessing them.
How we're assessing. We're going to continue. We added another one, and we're going to continue another meeting at the end of the month.
Great. In addition to all the great student news that Matthew shared, yesterday, all of our 7th grade students from Henry James walked over to Hot Meadow Country Club, and they participated in something called the First Green event. So it's sponsored by the Golf Course Superintendents Association, and it's a new program in which they are encouraging students to come and experience all these different activities related to science, math, engineering, to do a little chipping and putting themselves and understand the physics around it, but also golf course management and all the different skills and competencies that go into the upkeep and maintenance of a golf course. So we worked with Mark Murnane from Hot Meadow, and they were incredible guests, and the kids got some swag, and we got a little positive press too. So I want to thank Greg Core, who's the department supervisor for science at Henry James, because he really took the ball and made it happen for our kids. So an awesome collaboration and something we hope to continue in the future.
replace your divots, right, Neil?
No.
That's
I'm glad she mentioned Mark Murnay, because now I know who to give a hard time to, that I didn't get invited to that. So, really, gotta take it up with it. So, just a quick report that this is the time of year in my office where we're out on the hiring circuit, and it's always a lot of fun. So, we sort of build up as the public meetings happen to get our budget right to the threshold. That's when we start to go out and advertise positions, and then we hit the ground running after April vacation. So we already conducted interviews last week. We've identified some science teachers that will be coming on board in the next couple of days, signing contracts. We're in interviews with special education teachers. So it really picks up now, and we hope to be as fully staffed to go into summer as we can be, and just this sort of 8 to 10 weeks is a time when we get that work done, and it's always very invigorating to see new folks coming into the profession.
Just wanted to let you all know that the Board of Selectmen met last week and they set the referendum date. So the date is May 10th, and it will be held at Town Hall. That's a Friday.
Great, thank you. And I just wanted to mention two things. One, I can't overlook. We had a ceremony for our culinary program. We talked about robotics international. I mean, the breadth of programs that the school system is giving is truly exceptional. I said this presenting the budget at the public hearing, and these are programs that our students are not just participating in, but they are clearly thriving in. Some would like us to pull back on them. I cannot tell you how much I think this proves that we should be not doing that. And then I just wanted to echo what Jess said. This space is really amazing. We were here essentially last year at this time, and it is incredible the progress that has been made. We talk again at the budget and throughout the year, we talk about sustainable and smart investments, and we're sitting in one. We are about to have just the first class facility to match our first class education for these students. So really hats off to you and your leadership, and just really couldn't be more pleased with how this is turning out, and hopefully this will just be the first of more to come. So
two quick things. It was great to have Gianna come out, certainly, and this week is our annual staff recognition. So on Thursday, we pulled together at a ceremony at Henry James. We honor staff that has reached certain milestones in their career, as well as our retirees. And that's what it's all about. I mean, we talk a lot about creating a sense of belonging. We have special teachers, and it's going to be nice to slow down a little bit this week after school for one day and really honor some of the great work that's been done by our staff. So we're certainly looking forward to that. Neil MCs that, so there is always a great entertainment value. So if you're free, you're welcome to come, and looking forward to that event. And the second piece is just want to thank all the boards in town for their collective work on the budgets. Our budget number that was approved at a 4.41% increase moved through both public hearings and will go to referendum. I believe the referendum date is May 10th. So I'm pleased with that. It was certainly a challenging season in terms of the decisions we had to make and the needs that we had. So it always does feel good to get through this threshold, but I always hold the breath until that actual referendum goes through. So May 10th is the date for that. And that is all I have to say.
Great. So the first item for action tonight is the approval of our March 18th meeting minutes. Do we have a second to look at that? Can we get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the
Brian,
minutes.
you have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. Second is the March 26th meeting. Can I get a motion on that, please?
I'll motion to approve those minutes.
Thank you, Brian. Second, Jen? Great. Any discussion? Awesome. All those in favor? Any opposed?
Just an abstention. I was not in
One
attendance.
Okay. Personnel. Neil.
2 retirements that have literally come in since April vacation. So the first is teacher of 23 years at Squadron Line, Sharon Cabell, started as a special education teacher with us for about a decade, and then as we developed our Simsbury Reading Intervention Program that you've heard of, our SRIP program, Sharon is an expert teacher of reading skills and transitioned into that job about 12 or 13 years ago and has served in that role ever since, except during COVID when she braved it back into a first grade classroom after having not been in that role for a while. So we had a lot of good discussions about that year. I work very closely with Sharon on our team program for new teachers in their first 2 years, sort of the induction. Jan Sands is our retired teacher who runs that program. But there are 5 master mentors in the district, sort of the mentors of the mentors, and Sharon has served on that since I've done that. So I will miss her at our meetings of the team, as I call it, but maybe she'll stop by and join us because we do usually do it over food. So, as of June 30th, Sharon will be having her retirement. And then one of my favorites at Simsbury High School, Ken Fisher. He is literally our jazz teacher. That's his role. It's a part-time job. He comes in, before the schedule rotated, it was first period in the morning, and it's our jazz ensemble. This was a good gig. Matthew can probably speak to it too. You take super talented jazz players at Simsbury High School, you put them with a master teacher, and you let them go. And Ken is the maestro, as I like to call him. He's a wonderful musician himself, and his schedule for many years that I know, he would literally come to Simsbury High School, teach our jazz ensemble, go to Loomis Chaffee, teach their jazz class, and then go to the Academy of Performing Arts in the afternoon, and then play his own gigs at night. So it's time for a well-deserved retirement. So congratulations to Ken Fisher. I know he's probably a mentor of yours, Matthew.
Yeah, I've been in his class for 4 years.
So, he's quite a guy.
So we, with much appreciation, we need a motion. Somebody read a motion.
I'll move that the Board of Education accept the retirements of Sharon Cabell and Kenneth Fisher effective June 30, 2024.
Great. Is there a second? Great. Any discussion?
I'm sure we're going to miss them.
Yeah, absolutely. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Adoption of everybody's favorite, adoption of the healthy food and beverage for 2024.
Okay, Jessica and Josh are going to be inducted into the club tonight. This is an annual set of motions that needs to be made regarding our participation in the Healthy Food and Beverage in Schools Act, which allows us to get federal reimbursement into our nutrition services program. It's 3 motions. They need to be read fully into the record, as our veteran members of the board know. And it ensures that nothing that you are selling at school during school hours falls into sort of the less than healthy food categories. So Jen agreed to read the first motion for me before we give the newcomers a chance. So there are 3 motions, and I'm going to let you get us started, Jen.
Okay. Move that pursuant to CGS Section 10-215F, the Simsbury Board of Education certifies that all food items offered for sale to students in the schools under its jurisdiction and not exempt from the Connecticut nutrition standards published by the Connecticut State Department of Education will comply, it's a long sentence, with the Connecticut nutrition standards during the period of July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. This certification shall include all food offered for sale to students separately from reimbursable meals at all times and from all sources, including but not limited to school store, vending machines, school cafeterias, and any fundraising activities on school premises sponsored by the school or by non-school organizations and groups.
Thank you. Is there a second? Don't worry, you don't need to read it.
Second.
All right, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, who would like to do the next one?
All right, I'll take care of it. Move that pursuant to sections 10-215F of the CGS, the Simsbury Board of Education hereby will allow the sale to students of food items that do not meet the Connecticut nutrition standards, provided that the following conditions are met. 1, the sale is in connection with an event occurring after the end of the regular school day or on the weekend. 2, the sale is at the location of the event. And 3, the food items are not sold from a vending machine or school store. An event is an occurrence that involves more than just a regularly scheduled practice, meeting, or extracurricular activity. For example, soccer games, school plays, and interscholastic debates are events, but soccer practices, play rehearsals, and debate team meetings are not. The school day is the period from midnight before to 30 minutes after the end of the official school day. Location means where the event is being held and must be the same place as the food sales.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Third.
All right.
Yeah.
Move that the Simsbury Board of Education will allow the sale of students of beverages not listed in section 10.221Q of the CGS, provided that the following conditions are met. The sale is in connection with an event occurring after the end of the regular school day or on the weekend. The sale is at the location of the event, and the beverages are not sold from a vending machine or school store. An event is an occurrence that involves more than just a regularly scheduled practice, meeting, or extracurricular activity. The school day is the period from midnight before to 30 minutes after the end of the official school day. Location means where the event is being held and must be the same place as the food sales.
Second. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
I'll be back next April.
I mean, I think that's the smoothest it's ever gone.
No.
I think it was. Great.
I think it
Latimer Lane report.
Mr. Lizzetti, come on up.
I think you should come here, Michael.
Yeah, just go right in here.
I'm glad I set up the second screen for everyone.
So I know we had the tour before.
Yep.
I wanted to bring kind of some of the phasing to light and talk about where you are with things, and
Definitely.
those watching at home can get a feel.
So I will hit the highlights for you. Thank you again to everyone who was able to join. Just to give you the glimpse, this is the, I'm going to stand up for one moment. The dark line that you see is the original building. Everything over here is what I will refer to as Phase 1B. Everything over here is Phase 1A. That makes up the 22,000 square feet of new that we are currently occupying. We are sitting currently in part of Phase 1B. And it's gorgeous. So what's continued to happening, this is the same exact slide that you saw a year ago. Bi-weekly OAC, which is owners, architects, and construction team. We meet every 2 weeks up in the trailer at the top of the hill. Neil, myself, Jason Casey, the team from O&G, the team from Tecton, the team from Arcadis, and talk about what's coming up, what we've completed, and how we can continue to move the project forward. In the off weeks, Neil and I meet with the team from Arcadis and Tecton about the furnitures, fixtures, and equipment budget. Happily, that has finally starting to clear state hurdles because we are counting on all of that furniture arriving at the start of August to replace the furniture that is in the building. I have a slide at the very end to show you what that's going to look like. From a budgetary perspective, it's great because we're able to recapture a lot of the existing furniture that's still in good condition. So Terrafil, for example, was looking at putting, I believe, 50 desks in their budget for next year. That's an item that we're able to take out because we're able to fill that for them. As we look at preschool options within Latimer Lane, we have the furniture to be able to fully furnish those preschool rooms. Some other schools we're looking at purchasing new round tables. We're able to swap out some of those as well. So there's significant budget savings to the town as we go through that process. The monthly public building committee meetings, those are the first Monday of every month. They are riveting. They ask some great questions and make sure that we are wise as we spend the money and get all the answers that the town needs. And a lot of classroom moves. Almost everyone in the building has moved at some point this year, with the exception of 7 classrooms. And our 6th graders opted to move twice so that they don't have to move this summer. It's a very wise move on their part. And a ton of construction. Because again, when we were here last year, we walked through a space that was barely under construction. So completion of phase 1A and 1B, those are all of the new classrooms at the far end of the building that we toured. In addition to the caf, the gym, the bathrooms outside of here, the kitchen, the courtyard, the stage, the occupational therapy room, and for the first time in the history of Latimer Lane, indoor storage for the gymnasium. Phase 2A was the phase, that's that upper hallway. So I shared this story with a few of the board members. A few months back, the construction team cornered me on a Friday and said, we have a huge ask of you, which they don't do often. And they said, we would love to get further ahead and take the 6 primary classrooms, bless you, 6 primary classrooms from you to put that work ahead of schedule. My response back to them was, okay, but you need to give me 8 rooms, because at that point music was teaching on a cart. Their counter to my asking for 8 was, what if we gave you 11, plus we gave you all of the upper bathrooms and the speech and language office? It was wonderful negotiation on their part. So much, so it was so ambitious that the president of O&G made a bet with his guys that he didn't think the upper bathroom would be done in time for the April vacation turnover. So we have a dinner at Plan B coming up, I believe. So that the amazing piece of that, though, is that that hallway wasn't supposed to be turned over until the end of June. And because our primary teachers were willing to give up those 6 classrooms, they are already well underway in the 7 days that they have been working on them. That is going to allow us to be just enough ahead of schedule that the front of the building, 3A, a piece that we were not supposed to have until the end of December, their plan is to complete those classrooms by the middle of August, so that we will open the school year 4 months ahead of schedule in regards to classrooms, and the only thing that will remain is the office and the nurse's office, which is not apparently common in municipal construction projects from what I hear.
That's great.
So behind us is a purchase that the town approved, a donation by our PTO, which is an amazing climbing wall, but what it really represents is the fact that our kids are up and using all of these spaces. We're so eager. So for about 4 months, this half of the gymnasium was our lunchroom, and the front half of the cafeteria was a classroom. Because that allowed us to continue to push forward. We are in a spot where the cafeteria is in fact a cafeteria. The gymnasium is in fact a gymnasium. And it is just really exciting to see portions of the project finished ahead of schedule. What used to be the gymnasium and what used to be the cafeteria are now the soon-to-be art room and the soon-to-be library and media center. Again, pieces that they anticipate turning over to us June 7th, which means that as our kids leave on those last 2 or 3 days of school, they will be able to walk past the library that they will inherit at the start of the next year. So behind all of these walls, sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's noisy, sometimes it's a little disruptive, but absolute magic is happening, and we are getting our kids pictures of what's taking place. Our construction workers continue to engage with our kids. I got a great text from Marie Chahusky, the 6th grade teacher, the first day back when they inherited the upper hallway, and it just simply said, "Oh my gosh, I saw the cutest thing ever." There was a little kindergarten is now at the farthest end of the hallway, and it turned out to be Scott Macy Neal, not surprisingly, our site superintendent, who saw a kindergartner struggling with their breakfast in the morning because she had her backpack and her breakfast. So he took her breakfast, he walked her down to class, made sure she was set up. It was the cutest thing ever. And then maybe 2 hours later, he and I were walking through the hall and he was taking some tape off the wall, and Ruth popped up around the corner and she's like, "Oh, you're my friend who helped me with my breakfast." And she started asking him questions about what he was doing. It's the dynamic of the team on site has been really great for our kids and for our staff. So what's next? So phase 2B and phase 3A have begun. Phase 2B is the media center, the art room, the instrumental room, and that central courtyard, the performance space. Phase 3A are those 6 primary classrooms, first grade rooms, and a few kindergarten rooms, which the demo in those spaces is near completion, and they will begin to run electrical wires and put things up shortly. And again, they've been in those rooms for 7 days. The media center, they will start painting that ceiling this Saturday, and they will be done within the next 7 weeks to completion, which is amazing. And then the start of phase 3B. So phase 3B is essentially the entire front of the building. It's all of those classrooms along the front of the building. It's also the office and the nurse's office. That's a phase that we did not intend to start, including phase 3A. We did not intend to start until this summer. And again, those rooms weren't supposed to be done until the end of December, but we anticipate that we will have them August 14th so that teachers can go in, we can move in furniture, and they can set up their rooms. Leaving, I will eventually have an office. That will be done by Thanksgiving, and our team does not the construction team does not anticipate that they will probably have anyone on site by the time we hit Thanksgiving, and that we will be keys in hand and the entire building will be complete. So one of those things at the FF&E meetings we talk about is what does the new furniture plan look like? And those of you who were on the tour heard me talk about the fact that every room in this building has been created identically, and that allows us to flip spaces and move spaces as needed. Whether it is a first grade through 6th grade room or a special ed room, they are all 27.5 feet by 27.5 feet. They have the same millwork in the corner. They have the same new line device you're looking at here up on the front of the board. They have the same air conditioning systems, they have the same lighting systems, everything is the same, and then the layout of the rooms is different. So what you see side by side here would be the farthest end of the 1A section, which is a special education room to the left and a 3rd grade classroom to the right. Again, if you flip the spaces, they would overlap. So included in the FF&E package are student desks, student chairs, teacher chairs, a variety of bookcases. You probably can't see them well enough, but the ones that say B1 are really those classic 3-foot high, 3-foot wide bookcases that you see in classrooms. The ones that say B2 are math specific. They have more of a grid for storing all of the manipulatives that go hand in hand with our math curriculum. New carpets, new teacher work areas, the flexible seating within the special ed room, those are the reason I opted for this one is that's the same furniture that you'll see in the kindergarten rooms where they are slightly bigger pieces of the pie. The reason we went with all of these options rather than just large tables is it just gives you flexibility. Much like we look up at the stage and realize that we didn't put a curtain on, we put a wall up so that we can use that space flexibly. We want the classrooms to be the same. So those 4 desks can be assembled together so that they form one large pod, but they can easily be pulled apart. And in the meantime, everything that we've always done at Latimer for the last 62 years continues. Our teachers are teaching hard. They are working hard. We started Smarter Balanced Assessment today for students in 3rd grade through 6th grade, and barring the unanticipated fire alarm that went off 6 minutes into the test, our kids were great. They bounced back, they reassembled themselves, and off they went. Intervention is currently taking place in half of our cafeteria. That team had the opportunity to move during this last move over April break, but they feel like it's working really well and they're centrally located, and they felt like that was a piece that they wanted to continue to do. So they will be there for the duration of the year, and they will inherit their permanent spaces at the end of the year. Weekly PLCs are happening. Grade level teams are coming together. They are using data to drive their instruction, to make the decisions that are best for kids. Community events are taking place, as was mentioned. Last week we had 350 people in this space right here. We had 30 different families sharing about their cultures, their backgrounds, their heritage. You'll see some of those flags up here. You'll see some on the other side, and I have 7 new flags that, as a result of last Wednesday, I have to reorder. So it's exciting to see this space getting used. We've had our first full school assemblies since pre-COVID, when we were able to put the entire student population in this room. And the physical layout is ever changing, but everything that we do remains the same. Are there questions from the board?
I mean, somebody's going to talk about the 3-point line.
I wasn't going to mention it, but
so we have tiny feet, Mr. Curtis.
How concerned are you with the FF&E timeline with the state? I know we had a delay in trying just to get our information back and get some approvals.
The team tells me, so that here's what I will say. The team has told me that we are fine on the timeline, and we haven't missed the timeline that they've told me in the last 18 months.
Yep.
So that's where my comfort is.
They're telling us 12 weeks lead time on most furniture.
All right.
Yep. But so the school ends on the Wednesday. By Thursday afternoon, we will have all of the student desks and all of the student chairs down here, and by Friday we'll have cleared out the majority of the rest of things. So we'll be ready for whenever it arrives, and we'll be ready to distribute this furniture to other schools as needed.
It's really exciting. The facility is beautiful, and I just want to give you some kudos and thank you for, listening to you talk about this building, and now your level of expertise in these areas has been really interesting to watch. But you fully engaged this challenge and have done a wonderful job with the support of others, obviously.
Absolutely.
Managing the nuances and everything else. So thank
Absolutely.
you very much, Mike.
I can't thank the team enough.
The maximum occupancy for this gym?
For the gym, I don't remember offhand. So we will have, including the bleachers and chairs for 500 seated, it's 7 something if you're sitting on the ground. It's
So you can fit everybody.
Yeah, we can provide direct seating for 500, plus still run a concert.
And I will tell you also that they tell me when Mike's not in the room so that it doesn't go to his head. But the folks who work for Tecton, our architect, who our O&G, our construction manager, and Arcadis is our representative, they will tell me if they had a principal this engaged in every project they did, their lives would be a lot easier. They are very impressed with the way Mike has handled everything about this. And I think they might be making them an offer when this is all over.
We've talked about sidekicks.
I was wondering.
Yeah. Because he just enjoys it too.
It's so much fun. It really is.
Great. Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael. Nice job.
4 months early, God.
I know, that's
If it
the
was at a
part.
kitchen redone, that's not possible. Teacher evaluation plan.
Sue is going to tee that up.
There are many things that I love about my job, but any task, project, initiative that involves me partnering with Mr. Sullivan creeps to the top of that list. And this is one of those times where, in all seriousness, Neil and I get to work very closely. We're going to share tonight about upcoming changes to our Simsbury Educator Evaluation Plan, why we're making changes, and what are some next steps. So just to we're going to tag team this one. So just to give you a little background and context, our general statutes in the state of Connecticut require that certified educators be evaluated annually. And the current legislation had certain parameters around that and what our evaluation system had to include and some basic non-negotiables. This past April, well, actually a year ago now, April of 2023, there had been some legislative changes. The legislation had resulted in some impactful adjustments overall, things that we will touch upon tonight. And it requires boards of ed to adopt new teacher evaluation plans in totality by this coming September for implementation next year. So again, basic statutes, changes to the statutes that we will go over, and a pretty quick timeline for school districts to make these changes, to enact them, and to come back for board approval. So because of that, Neil and I wanted to give you some background information so that when we bring the plan back forward for your approval, you'll have some context around why we're doing this. Some of the major changes is that the legislative adjustments really puts the power back to what's called our Professional Development and Evaluation Committee. You'll also hear that referred to as PDEC. And prior to this, PDEC was more of an advisor as far as professional learning opportunities, but they really didn't have a ton of say in the evaluation plan. The changes in legislation also changes that and says the local Professional Development and Evaluation Committee is now the one that is going to be driving the recommended changes for the evaluation plan. So for us, who is on this committee? It is composed of 21 educators, various roles and experience in our district. You can see the breakdown between elementary, middle, and high school. And then Neil and I are both representatives on PDEC and help to chair that.
Hey, Sue, before you go on, just a real basic question. Evaluated by who?
Evaluated by administrators who hold administrative certification
Great.
to do so.
Great.
It's what's called a 092 certification.
No, but it's great. So it's
Yeah.
administrative. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
So guiding principles around these changes. First and foremost, the state wanted to make sure that there could be some differentiation in roles. So there's a lot of people that fall under the term of educator, whether they be elementary classroom teacher or school psychologist or school counselor, and they wanted to make sure that this plan really could differentiate for those different roles and responsibilities. There was also a lot of what many educators would deem as unnecessary burden that was within our former evaluation system. It became very checkboxy, right? Numbers of evaluations that you had to do versus really focusing on what matters. Meaning, what is going to make a difference for our students? How do we want to develop our own skill set as educators to become better for kids? And really drive the bus on professional learning. So these guiding principles allows us to do that and really focuses on both educator growth, but also the agency for professionals to make those decisions about how they're going to become better with and for our students. So you will see in the themes to these guiding principles this emphasis on professional learning, on continuous improvement, and how do administrators provide actionable, specific, relevant feedback to our teachers. So the components, there are 6 components of the evaluation kind of system, and you can see those here. And how we've kind of set this up is among those 21 educators, Neil and I have made subcommittees around these 6 components. And we've charged these subcommittees with very specific tasks in relation to whether it be standards and criteria, goal setting, dispute resolution. So it gets to some of the high leverage, what do we want this plan to be all about, but also some of the technical moves and changes to really make sure that it is a plan that does what we want it to do. For our educators, but most importantly for our students in growth. So Neil's going to talk a little bit more about what the design shifts are in this plan and our timeline.
So this is the first significant push on a change to teacher evaluation at the state level since 2012. And the 2012 shift was extremely prescriptive from the state level, and it told all districts basically these are the categories in which you're going to evaluate. This is, and it was like a mathematical formula of like, based on the rating you give, this part of the evaluation is worth 45%, and this part is worth 10%, and this part is worth 40%. And it, I think from a teacher lens, felt very prescriptive. So the goal that the state put forward here is that we want to move away from that, and we want the decisions not coming from the state level, but coming from the local level. So there's a lot of language in the standards saying every district has to have a PDEC committee. PDEC, we want you driving the decisions. So that's certainly the first one. What happened in that very prescriptive mathematical system is that you gave people ratings under each job category, essentially of a 4, 3, 2, or 1, and which was exemplary, proficient, developing, and like below standard, I think was the language. And then mathematically, the teacher would end up with a score of, they quickly found out that's not always how teachers like to be evaluated, and caused there to probably be way too much emphasis on what was the ultimate rating and score instead of the professional conversation that you're trying to get out of your supervision and evaluation conference. So what is gone from this is that very, you're at the end of the year going to say this teacher is proficient and moving on, and we're setting normal goals for them. And if there is a small number of teachers who need an improvement plan or a remediation plan, then that will happen. But there will not be a rating and sorting of teachers. That is completely de-emphasized in this. Certainly, I think part of what they're asking professional development PDECs committees to do is make sure that there's an emphasis on teacher-driven improvement. Like what at this stage in your career, I mean, we have mostly veteran teachers in Simsbury, a conversation about what are you and what are your team working on? How is it living in your daily work, and how are we going to support you? So that, I mean, it fits very well with our, all of our way of approaching things in Simsbury in terms of our focus on continuous improvement. And then I would say one of the biggest shifts is that they're looking at goals. The goals you are required to write right now are, they're about student performance goals, and basically how are we going to get kids to improve from this September to this May by the time that we sit down. So they're fairly narrow. And this is opening the door to let teachers set multiple year goals of, obviously they're still going to have the current data about their current students. That system's not going away, but the evaluation system is going to be less based on that sort of short-term movement of student performance. So that's a little bit of what's different. What stays the same, even though there might be multiple multi-year goals, the parameters that they've set out say there still should be 3 meetings per year between a supervisor and the supervisee. At the elementary level, that mostly means your principal. At the secondary level, it also means your department supervisor along with a building administrator. So principals and assistant principals will split the faculty up amongst themselves and then work with different department supervisors. And those 3 check-ins happen with usually both of those people. The goals have to be mutually agreed upon. That has not really been a sticking point here in Simsbury. And we want to obviously have people move more toward longer term sort of action research type long-term goals. And the standards have to be connected to research. So even in the 2012 standards, you had to base them on a set of teaching rubrics, really, is what it was. And there were different different experts out in the field who had developed rubrics. The state of Connecticut has also developed the Connecticut, why am I blanking? It's CCT, Common Core of Teaching. And our standards in Simsbury were based on the Common Core of Teaching. Actually, we believe our subcommittee that's looking at this right now actually believes it makes sense for us to go back to the Common Core of Teaching. So that's probably a shift we're going to make in Simsbury. We lost the, it's good, I'm on the last slide. And the emphasis here is we are starting with what is already a very strong plan. So So the last slide is about where we are, the timeline. We've normally this PDEC that Sue and I have helped co-facilitate. I would also point out that Kara Masler, who is one of the presidents of the SEA, chairs with us. They want a member of the teachers union to be involved in the leadership of this. So that group usually met about 4 times a year. This year we've met every month. So we've already had like 8 meetings this year, mostly in working subcommittees. The debate among the subcommittees has finally just reached, we've reached decisions, and it is clearly time to start drafting sections of the plan. So that's where the subcommittees are. We are meeting, so when you get right to it, a big committee of 22 people, you don't want all of those people writing. Like, you want to limit the number of people that are writing. So we're bringing a smaller group together this Friday morning to take the pieces that the subcommittees have developed, and we're really trying to pull together a first draft. That's the goal. By summer, hope to have made the pieces align, get to the point where we're ready to present it to you at your very first meeting in the fall, because that's really the timeline that we need to follow. So it has given a lot of meaningful work to the group this year. I mean, I think we've really seen people sort of, wow, we've got something important to do here to get to the end of the year, but the timeline is onerous. It is to be doing that big of a draft of a plan in basically a 6 to 8 month time frame has been difficult. We're going to get there, but I do think that the state is getting a lot of feedback that while the moves from what they were doing in 2012 were appreciated, that probably the timeline should have been stretched.
Because the sample plan from the state came out when?
February.
Late February.
So you really have that whole timeline.
So that was going to be my question is, understanding the, great work that you guys are going to have to do and how you're, synthesizing it down to the smaller groups. You're saying it has to be adopted by September, right? And you're figuring that you'll get it, our first meeting. I mean. Yeah,
your first meeting is usually September 8th or 9th.
That's right.
So we may be a few days off. Okay. I'm not.
It depends on how writing goes this Friday, but the whole piece to this is we started with a really strong plan, and smart people who are dedicated to making these changes and to making it more relevant and simpler. So we will have an update for you. I think either way we can give a kind of a verbal communication about how the small group writing goes this week, but we have a lot from which to work from.
Right, and my other question would be, is a change as far as the body, of teachers, are they aware? Is it being shared with them in increments so that when it comes back to us, that they've seen it already, because they're going to be on the other side of this.
It's the responsibility of that PDEC committee. It's the responsibility of your school's representative to ask the principal at least a few faculty meetings, hey, I want to be able to update Latimer Lane where we are. So every school is represented. But does the typical teacher know a lot about what's going on with this right now? Not a heck of a lot.
They know that the ratings are gone.
Yes. Okay.
They know that it's supposed to be made simpler, but they have not seen the specifics because that is what's being fleshed out with the PDEC committee.
Right. So that's what I was kind of getting. So if you're, the expectation is that, if I'm on a committee, I'm going back and kind of sharing along the way, but come September, you're thinking that you'll have a fully fleshed, let's just say.
Yes.
But it shouldn't be a surprise to them, I'm thinking, in September.
They know a new system is coming.
Right.
And orientation to this will be a piece of our opening professional development
That's what I was.
for the year.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wanting to.
Yeah, there's a lift at the
Yeah.
opening.
Yeah.
There's a lifted opening. We're going to be working with administrators and what that looks like, and also department supervisors.
Yeah.
So we just did an update exactly last week around the same topic. So evaluators can start putting their heads around it.
Yeah.
What does it mean for them? So we certainly have some more communication work to do on a pretty rigorous timeline, but again, we think we'll be able to get there. And
Yeah.
if there's anything that comes up that changes that timeline, we'll certainly let you know.
Yeah, I have one.
Oh, sorry.
So obviously, I'm sure you two are on top of this. So I think when I hear goal setting, evals, I'm sure many of us love that part of the job, right? So I heard in there, right, if something has to be remediation, that could be like the downside of it. And I heard you mention what could you do to help them stay on track, right? That's like probably the majority, right? The middle ground. I'm just curious, and there may not be an answer yet, but on the high end of that, like what consideration, right? They put in the time, they do the goals, they go through the evals. Sometimes it does feel, at least in corporate, right? It's kind of like check the box, do the dance, right? And there's a downside that if it's not going well, here's the remediation. But for the most part, it's like, you're doing great, keep doing it. Just curious on the high end of this, like what considerations someone goes through this process, like the rewards, the recognition, things like that. Again, nothing specific, but just maybe stuff to keep in mind that while there's downsides for remediation, the upsides, should be recognized too.
Yeah, I think a big part of that upside is around the design shifts that teachers really get to focus on what they're passionate about. And when I get to do work of which I'm passionate about, like that brings a lot of joy into what I do. Again, I come back to it's a requirement that we have to evaluate annually every single certified teacher. But I think it's about those conversations and what teachers are getting excited about in their practice. And that's where that excitement and that differentiation really come into play, Josh. You get a lot more say in what that looks like. We can team up if we're working on something very, very similar and really get after it around what we think is going to make a difference for kids. And that's by and large why we all get into the work.
But on the other side of that too, we talk about those who aspire, in any job, in any role, right, you have those who may not, right? And so there's still those things in place, right, to help them to
elevate their
elevate
practice.
them or help them to make a decision, right?
100%. And I think what Neil had shared, those 3 meetings, minimally those 3 meetings a year, those are not just, hey, we're just going to talk about, there are specific agendas. Teachers will bring information to the table, what they've been working on. It's really important that we have that open dialogue with evaluator and teacher about, hey, here are some suggestions that we think would make a difference. So it's certainly around relationship and that back and forth, but we're all in it for the same reason, and that's to do better for our students here in Simsbury.
You may have just answered this question, but Sharon was going exactly where I wanted to. I'm not here to say that ratings are good or bad. Certainly in the corporate world, that changes, it seems like, yearly, whether you have ratings or not. So, but my question really is for that, for good or for evil, if they get a poor rating, it's pretty, consistent, and you have what you need to put them on an improvement plan. With this, just again, sort of talk to me about how do you determine that individual teacher maybe needs an improvement plan, and that you can have that consistency amongst the teachers, and one maybe not be singled out or.
Yeah, I think certainly part of it, the standards that Neil was talking about, the Common Core of Teaching, they come with rubrics that spell out what does meeting expectation look like. And not to get too technical, but there's something that's going to be called a single point competency regarding, okay, with learning environment, with your classroom, these are the minimal expectations, and we're going to talk about evidence of you meeting that or not meeting that. and next steps for improvement. So there are mechanisms when teachers may not be living up to the expectations yet. There are mechanisms and processes in place to address that and hopefully remediate. And if not, there's a component of our plan that can also address next steps in that process.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Ready?
So I was just saying to, can we get an update on where we are with the reading? You know, the changes that we're making. Remember we put something out to the parents and the community? I just wanted to ask that because I know all of them.
That's got to be on the agenda.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Okay, all right.
I can put
But,
that in
but
front of
yeah,
you.
because,
I can put
because
that in
the timeline was the same.
You're talking about the waiver?
Yeah,
Yeah, so I can, what I'll do is I'll work up something with Sue.
yeah, sorry
Shoot
about
it to you
that.
Friday?
That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I just knew the timeline
Yeah,
was
no,
the
no, no.
same.
No problem.
Yeah.
I got it.
Okay.
Quarterly budget analysis.
Yes. So third quarter update, no major changes since the second quarter. I do have a couple updates for you though. If you look on the first page under revenues, that third bullet down, the special education excess cost grant, we did receive our award for fiscal year 24. It's about 2.5 million. Our prior year award was about 2.3 million. And while this seems like an increase and a good increase, and it is, our costs have actually gone up substantially more than that. So the 2.5 million reimbursement is at a reimbursement rate of 68.1%, and the $2.3 million reimbursement for last year is at a reimbursement rate of 73.7%. So we're still eating more of those costs that the state keeps taking away the funding.
So maybe just let me jump in. That was kind of the narrative, as you'll recall, we talked about in the budget process, was that overall the number of our outplaced students had held steady. Cost went up and reimbursement rate went down. So just a very bad calculus to try to manage when you're not drawing revenue, right?
And then moving on to the expenditures, again, no major changes under general control. When I took a look at the analysis, there's only a $40,000 change from this time last year. It's mainly the payment and timing of professional services, and in this case, mainly legal, where we saw a decrease compared to the same time last year. Pupil transportation, same thing that we talked about during the budget process, the special education, the outside vendors that we have to use for transportation. So good news on the operation of plant, our rate of spending is lower. We have seen savings related to our electricity and natural gas accounts. So some good news there. And then the out of district, again, just the same thing that we've been talking about during the budget process, that increased spending related to the out of district costs mainly.
So Amy, can you speak to the instruction number?
It's pretty consistent from year to year. So 65.89% last year, 66.34% this year. So right where we should be in line with budget.
So I'm just looking more at the year-to-date expenditures. And that number, is it expected, because these numbers are what, as of April?
As of the end of March.
End of March, okay. But the expectation is that, what, by the end of the school year, we'll utilize the full?
Right. Correct. Actually, just getting to that. So our end-of-year deficit that was previously reported during budget was about $600,000 to $700,000. Our revised estimates show a deficit around $500,000. So slightly better. We have been looking at some grant reallocations. We implemented a spending freeze. We have some salary savings. So we're hoping to be able to cover probably a majority of that. So that's a big positive compared to where we were during budget.
That's great. So just want to make sure we're clear. We will be able to cover, meaning the Board of Education's budget will be able to cover the deficit.
Maybe. I think so.
I'll take maybe.
I
That's
think
fine.
I think it might be.
That's great.
Still a lot of moving parts.
The majority of it.
That's great.
I think so. Yes.
Perfect.
But I can't promise the whole thing.
No, I get it. Yeah, no, it's, well, obviously.
Do we always, I feel like around this time of the year, we always take a look at where we are in the current year, and in comparing the numbers from last year to this year, it's crazy how 68.25 to 68.06, is that, I mean, is this the time of the year we always look at these numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I asked in the last meeting. Yeah.
And then one other question. I thought there was an issue with transportation.
There is.
Is it?
So that's going to be part of the overall deficit. So you see it's 82.47
Yeah.
now. It's 84.23.
So we're going to exceed it.
So we will likely exceed it, but we did have savings on the regular education side, or regular transportation side, outside of the special education side. So that kind of offset a little bit. So it's not going to be as large as last year, but we will still have a deficit there.
Great. Any other questions? Appreciate all your hard work on this and the budget. Put in a lot of hours these days. I really appreciate it. And that takes us to our second public audience.
Come on, people.
So that then leaves us with our next board meeting on the 14th of May. Back at home, the Board of Education conference room.
We have the new artwork up, and that's when we bring the kids out. That's a fun one.
Yes.
Jen, did I hear a motion to adjourn?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we are stand adjourned. Oh, sorry,
Do
go
you need a
ahead.
second?
Yes, we do.
I second it.
Right, there you go.
There you go.
Thank you.